Hello students, welcome to Tutorial Live classes. Myself A. Swagat. In this particular session, we are going to understand about structure of heart. So, we will look into the structure of heart and also the circulation which happens within the heart. So, before we go to that particular discussion, let us have the understanding of the topics what we have completed in the previous session. So, here in the previous session, we looked at the discovery of the blood grouping that was done by Karl Landsteiner, okay, and where he gave us the detailing of the blood groups, A, B, O blood grouping system. It was by him we today are able to identify the different types of blood groups, right. So, that was done by him. So, we saw that was all about ABO system, ABO blood grouping system, and we saw about the discovery of the antigen from a rhesus monkey. So, it is from the for the first time they tried to identify this the sample identify the antigen present in the sample of a monkey, okay. So, that is rhesus monkey, and since then they tried to find out just over 600 different types of antigens on the surface of the RBCs in humans. So, because they found out for the first time in the rhesus monkey, they started to have the usage of the two letters RH, positive or negative. And then we understood the basic mechanism of the blood transfusion, and we also have an understanding of the universal donor and distribution of blood groups in the various population of the Asian continent. And then we understood the process of coagulation, how it happens and what are the reactions occurring and different enzymes taking part actively in the reaction. And then we saw the circulatory system and its types depending on the types of animals, okay. After which in this particular slide we are going to look at the objectives for the session. So, we will look into the session's objective, that is all about the structure of heart. So, before we go into the structure of the heart, we need to understand the functions of the heart. What does it do? Next, morphology and anatomy of the heart. So, we will have a brief understanding about morphology and anatomy of the heart. How does the heart looks externally? When you look at a heart, how does it appears? That is what is accounting for morphology. And when you say anatomy, it is all about how the heart is internally. We are going to look at different parts of the heart, what does it have and the types of valves and all other details. So, in that way, by understanding that, we will also look into the blood circulation, how this blood circulation occurs in the heart. So, there are different chambers in the heart and how these chambers are allowing the flow of blood, that is what accounts for blood circulation in the heart. And then we will see the pulmonary and systemic circulation in human circulatory system. So, we will have a detailed understanding of that pulmonary and systemic circulatory system. So, we will see the myogenic heart and its control. So, you will understand the blood circulation in pulmonary and systemic circuit in the circulatory system, how all these activities are happening in the heart. So, that is what is the all about myogenic heart and its control, right. So, let us begin with the slide here. It shows that we have heart on the slide. So, you can tell me whatever you know about heart, why do we need it or anything you are aware of that. Okay, that is correct. I see many of you putting in the chat box. Okay, that is quite simple. You say heart is having 4 chambers, okay, and they are auricles and ventricles. So, auricles and ventricles, okay. correct. So, there are 2 auricles and there are 2 ventricles, that is what we know so far, it is a common sense, okay. It is a general knowledge question, fine. Next, what else we have? Correct, it is a pumping organ. So, whatever pressure we have within our blood vessels, it is present because of this pumping organ, that is heart, okay. What else? Correct, that is simple one. It is one of the most important component of circulatory system. One of the most important component of circulatory system, correct, okay. So, okay, so I see one student mentioning about it accounts for double circulation. I do not know how many of you are aware of this. It accounts for double circulation, okay, let us see then. So, what is double circulation? Many of you may not have an understanding of that, no problem. If you do not have, I will make you understand that, it is a very simple thing, okay. And you see the component of circulatory system, heart is one of the important component of circulatory system, okay, fine. So, what next? Okay, that is all you say. So, auricles, ventricles, it is a pumping organ, it has 4 chambers, okay, and you say it accounts for double circulation, one of the important component of the circulatory system. So, what about the other 2 important components of the circulatory system? Correct, it is a simple question again. Other 2 components of the circulatory system are blood and blood vessels, blood and blood vessels, right. So, that is what we see, fine. Let us move forward and let us see what we have. So, firstly you have to tell me the functions of heart, correct. The first thing which we have already noted down, that is pumps. It is one of the important part of the body, it helps in pumping blood to different parts of the body. That means, when we say that pumping system or the word pumping, it accounts for pressure building, it builds pressure in the blood or blood vessel. Where does it create the pressure? Is it blood or blood vessel? Correct, simple. So, it uses blood, okay, to create pressure, okay, in blood vessels, okay, that is quite simple. So, that is where it uses the blood to create pressure in the blood vessels, and that is how it circulates the blood throughout the body. That is how it circulates blood. That means, that blood has to pass to different parts of the body from the heart, and again from different parts of the body it will reach the heart again. So, that accounts for circle. That is why we use the word circulation or circulates blood. So, that is the way we have to understand, right. Okay. Let us see what we have. Okay. So, here, so it pumps oxygenated blood, okay, and of course, the blood with the nutrients, that is a simple thing again, through blood vessel, just we discussed, right. And again it pumps deoxygenated blood containing blood wastes to lungs where gases exchange takes place, and also because the blood is also containing wastes, so that also has to reach to one of the important organ of the body. What is that? Kidneys. Because see, When the blood is not having oxygen, it is supposed to reach the lungs. Okay? When our blood is having whole lot of wastes, certainly our lungs cannot deal with that. Lungs can only deal with the carbon dioxide, right? But what about the wastes present in the blood? That can only be dealt with which organ? Organs, correct. That is, we have a pair of kidneys, so which we have already completed, right? So, you know that story. So, we have a pair of kidneys, and that is where they receive the blood with wastes, right. At the same time, blood also have several other components which we have dealt in the previous sessions. Okay. It also have proteins, it also have hormones, it has so many other things, right. So, when it has so many other things, what you have to understand is it also need to transfer those substances to their respective tissues. So, in order to do that, that circulation is also performed by the heart. Okay. So, that is what we understand. Now, we see the morphology of the heart. So, before we look into that, morphology refers to the external features what we can understand just by having an external observation, that is observing the structure of the heart, that is from the surface. So, that is what is morphology. Now, here it is all about morphology of the heart. So, when you think of the heart, you see where is it located? It is located, it says located under rib cage, it means it is actually inside the rib cage. This is where we have our chest. Inside the chest, we get to see the presence of several important organs, right. We have a pair of lungs, we have trachea located there, we have even the esophagus, part of esophagus is also located there. Okay. Our current discussion is completely not on these organs, our discussion is mainly on heart. So, it is located there, it is actually in between the lungs. So, we have a lung here, another lung here, right. In between the lungs, we have the heart. So, sometimes when we get to have a discussion on heart, usually people say we have heart here, right. It is not true. Heart is actually in the middle and it is bit tilted towards the left side. Okay. It is just tilted towards the left side. So, that is why we get to see that way. And the size, it depends on the people or the person, right. Size of your heart would be different depending on your body condition. Okay. Size of my heart would be different from you, and the size of the heart for a 1 or 2 year old baby would be different, right. So, the infant, toddler, small children, you, me, even in the older people, there is a lot of difference. So, it differs, but usually what we have to understand is these are the conditions: age, size and condition of the heart accounts for the difference in the size of the heart in different individuals, right. Next is, on average, we get to see the size of the heart, that is clenched fist. So, something like this. This is what the size of my heart is, that is just an approximation. Okay. So, we can have heart of this particular size, that is how it is, we show. So, my heart would be at max of this big size. So, compared to my body, if you think of the size of my fist, it is very small, right. But look at the beauty, even though it is so small, it can create enormous pressure enough to reach every tissue of your body. Isn't it interesting, right? So, it is interesting thing. So, even though being so small, it can generate enormous pressure and that enables it to reach different parts of the body. Now, that is really interesting. So, let us have a look at it and we will understand what and how it happens, right. So, here it is about the anatomy of the heart. Like you mentioned, there are 4 chambers, right. Atria or atrium is singular. The same atria can be called as auricles. Okay. So, either you use atria, which is actually plural, okay, or you use the word auricle or auricles. Auricles is plural, auricle is singular. Okay. Second one is ventricle. So, ventricle is singular, plural form is ventricles. So, that is simple here again. Okay. That is one thing. I want to show you that. Okay. So, when you see, this is how our heart looks like. There are several parts mentioned here, children. Let us have a look at it. Okay. So, before we go into the details, firstly let us have a look at 4 chambers of the heart. This is the right atrium, okay. This is the right ventricle, followed by left atrium and the left ventricle. Okay. Now, how do we get to see that as 4 chambers? If you observe carefully, okay, I would like to draw the partitions in the heart using blue color. Observe carefully. So, when you observe here, mainly there is a partition here, you see that, right. This is one partition dividing the right and left parts of the heart. You know, it is shown like this. You know, if I stand here, that accounts for the left side of my heart and this accounts for the right side of my heart. So, if you observe the same thing, you get to see left atrium, left ventricle. Okay. So, I write here LHS, right atrium, right ventricle. So, I write here RHS. Okay. So, this is one way how the partition is made. Okay. The another partition what you can find here is, you see this. Okay. This is to make you understand. Another way here what we can find is this. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 chambers of the heart. Okay. So, hope you got it. Let us move forward. Now, what else we have in the heart? Internally, you see, there are 4 chambers you have seen. Okay, I would like to draw them again. Okay, this is 1. Okay, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there are 4 chambers. What you can understand from this is this structure. Can you see that? Okay, that is continuing here. It's just under that. So, that is accounting for the septum, the bigger wall which actually separates the right and left side of the body. So, that is actually the septum that separates the right and left side of the body. Fine. Next, there is a right atrium. This right atrium, it is opened here. You can see it. There is opening here. Another opening is here, and it denotes it is having link with superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. Superior vena cava and inferior vena cava are the names of the veins. Veins, because you see the arrow mark here, that means blood is received through these inferior and superior vena cava. Superior vena cava brings the blood from the head, eyes and your face and hands, everything into the heart, whereas inferior vena cava brings the blood from the lower part of your body to the heart, and that to right side of the heart, specifically to the right atrium. Hope you are clear with that, right. So, inferior vena cava and superior vena cava brings the blood from different parts of the body to the right atrium. Okay. So, from the right atrium, blood would be passing to the right ventricle, obviously. So, when it is received from the right atrium, it has to pass through the right ventricle. Okay. Now, if it has to go to the right ventricle, it has to pass through a system here. Can you see that? There is a system available here. See, there is a valve available here. Can you see that? I have encircled that in yellow color. That valve is tricuspid valve, right? That valve is known as tricuspid valve. So, from the right atrium, the blood goes to the right ventricle through this valve. Okay. Now, again you see, from the right ventricle, blood again goes back to a part, that is, this structure again here. Okay. So, if you observe carefully, that structure is actually the pulmonary artery. So, from the right ventricle, blood passes to this particular structure, that is pulmonary artery, which is actually carrying blood to lungs. So, here right lung gets it from this, and from here you will see left lung gets the blood from this part. Actually, it is coming from the right ventricle. Done. So, that means when you see inferior vena cava and the superior vena cava bringing blood from different parts of the body, it means the blood is not having oxygen. The blood does not have oxygen. So, if it is reaching here, simple, right. So, from the pulmonary vein you see, so pulmonary vein is actually coming from lungs, right. So, if it is coming from lungs, you see it opens up into the left atrium, you see, right, again. So, from the left atrium, blood pours into the left ventricle, correct. So, if it has to come from left atrium to left ventricle, it has to pass through another valve, that is mitral valve, right. That is the mitral valve we are looking at. Okay. Now, from the mitral valve, it has to go here. Now, we have the left ventricle here. From the left ventricle, blood goes to different parts of the body through this, and the name is aorta, and that is an artery. That is one of the main artery which takes the blood and sends it to different parts of the body. That one is actually sending blood to upper parts of the body. For the lower parts of the body, you see this, right. So, hope you understood the anatomy, how it is arranged, and I have also given the basic blueprint about the how circulation happens inside the heart. Let us look at some more details. Okay. So, when we see here, we have anatomy of heart again. So, the atria, that is the upper two chambers of the heart, okay, they basically receive the blood. That is what you have seen. See, this is receiving blood from here, and this one is receiving blood from here. So, right atrium, left atrium, that is auricles actually receive blood. That is a common point. Okay. Next, you see ventricles, the lower two chambers of the heart, they pump blood out of the heart. You see, I told you that. So, right ventricle and left ventricle, they are lower two chambers, and what they are doing? They are actually sending blood to different parts of the body. You see, it is sending somewhere outside again, it is also sending the blood outside. That is the common point. Okay. Next, there is a muscle that divides the heart into right and the left halves. right? I told you that. Septum divides the heart into right and to left, right? So, that is one thing what you have seen in the anatomy. The same thing is given here in words, right? Let us move forward. Heart is having different valves, you have seen that, okay. I would like to tell you more about it actually. So, there are basically 4 heart valves, okay, there are 4 heart valves, okay. Now, what you have to see is tricuspid valve, we have seen just now. We have pulmonary semilunar valve, which I did not discuss, okay, I will show you. Following which we have mitral valve, which is also known as bicuspid valve, okay. Following that aortic valve, which is known as semilunar valve, okay. Now, I discussed about tricuspid valve and mitral valve, in other words bicuspid valve, okay. Now, children, you have seen these 2 valves here, right? I will show you again, right. This is where the tricuspid valve is available, and this valve you see that is mitral valve, okay. And there is one more valve you can see here, aortic valve, okay. Again you see there is one more valve here, pulmonary valve. So, there are 4 regions in the heart with 4 different valves, okay. Why we have them? Let us understand that, okay. Which one I should use? Yeah, here. So, our discussion is on valves. I would like to keep only valves here, nothing else. Okay, now if you observe within the heart, okay, you can only make out the valves which are present here, okay. So, if you observe here, okay, you see, let us start with this one, okay, 1, okay, this is 2, second valve, we have this one 3, the mitral valve, and this one 4. At 4 regions we have valves in the heart. Now, you know it is the pumping organ, heart is a pumping organ, right. This pump, the effect of pump, okay, that actually comes from these valves, mainly it is the mitral valve and the tricuspid valve, and also the action of the aortic and the pulmonary valve. It is because of that, you know, heart actually builds up the pressure and it is able to send blood to different parts of the body, and all that happens because of these valves. Now, we will understand something. Now, you see heart is such a big structure, okay, I am learning the heart in this manner, but actually the size of my heart is just this, it is very small, right. Let us have a look at it. So, anatomy, so it shows about these details, it is septum and muscles. When it comes to valves, we have these valves. Why do you think, children, we have these many valves available inside the heart? What is the reason? Okay. So, if you want to see, you see that, you know blood comes from here, okay, blood has to go to this region, again blood has to go from this region, again blood has to come back, blood has to go out. So, flow of blood is from almost, you know, below the heart and above the heart, you see blood is flowing, right. Every time whenever blood is flowing, the blood has to go through these valves, 1, 2, 3, 4 valves, okay, it has to go like that. but what is the reason? Why we need them? Why can't we have? Okay, I get some responses saying that to build pressure. Okay, I agree. Anything else apart from building pressure? Okay, someone is saying that to avoid backflow. Yes, to avoid backflow, we need valves. Also to build pressure, we need valves. So, you see here, so to prevent the backflow, okay, and also to keep the blood flowing in one particular direction. And coming to the pressure, it is not only done by the valves, it is heart as a whole. Heart is actually made of cardiac muscles. Okay. Now, it is these cardiac muscles, they generate that rhythmic contraction and relaxation. Contraction and relaxation. Contraction and relaxation. We get to see that like that. Okay. So, it is entirely done by these cardiac muscles. Okay. So, we will look into that also in brief, how that muscles, they contract and relax. Okay. Now, you see here, I would like to show you. So, there is a flow chart given here, okay, and there is a structure of the heart given here. So, let us begin here with this discussion. So, the flow chart says that it is actually showing the flow of the blood from the right atrium, it comes to the right ventricle, that is what it says, and then it says that it flows to the pulmonary artery, right atrium, right ventricle, then to the pulmonary artery, that is what it says, right. So, there is something here, we have to understand that. What is that available here? Valve, right. That is, we get to see here, I am sorry, yeah. So, we get to see here same thing, right atrium to the right ventricle through a valve, okay, and it is going to the pulmonary artery. See that? That is what it said, right? Right ventricle, sorry, right atrium to right ventricle to the pulmonary artery. Now, you see here, we get to see the presence of the tricuspid valve. That is quite simple, right. So, you see the from the right side, right atrium to right ventricle passes through the tricuspid valve, again it has to go to the pulmonary artery. So, this is what we have to understand here. The blood is passing from right atrium to right ventricle. Before we see the passage in the chambers, where did we get that from? We got that blood from the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. They are actually veins. What does that mean? Correct, because they are veins, okay. Usually veins contain deoxygenated blood. It has deoxygenated blood, blood which is used up with the oxygen, there is no oxygen available in that blood. So, that is why we get to have that here, and from the pulmonary artery it goes to the lungs. Why the blood has to go to the lungs through pulmonary artery? See, to pulmonary artery. So, it is going to the pulmonary artery, then it will be going into the lungs. What is the reason? Correct, it is very simple, that is oxygenation. So, in order to get the blood, enough of oxygen, so it has to go to the lungs, that is accounted by artery. So, you see this exception, an artery is carrying the deoxygenated blood to the lungs, so that in the lungs the blood can have sufficient amount of oxygen. So, there is an exception here. Usually arteries carry oxygenated blood, is not it? But here near the heart, artery is carrying the deoxygenated blood. Which artery? Pulmonary artery. Got it? This is one cycle of the blood what you have seen. Okay. From the lungs, the blood again would be coming back to the heart through this. So, from the lungs, blood comes back to the heart using the pulmonary vein. So, this pulmonary vein I will write here for you. Now, this pulmonary vein, it carries blood to the left atrium. Okay, it is getting the blood from the lungs. Okay, so which blood? It is getting the blood with oxygen. So, oxygenated blood. Oxygenated blood from the lungs is carried to the left atrium through pulmonary vein. So, again there is one more exception. The exception is pulmonary vein is carrying oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. But usually whenever you look at the veins, they usually carry deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body to the heart. But here the case is different. The pulmonary vein is carrying oxygenated blood to the left atrium, and from the left atrium that blood goes to the left ventricle again through a valve, that is mitral valve or bicuspid valve. So, the mitral valve is also known as bicuspid valve, left atrium to the left ventricle, left atrium to the left ventricle through a valve, that is bicuspid valve. Okay. After that, the left ventricle sends the blood to the aorta. Again that happens through a a valve again, that is aortic valve, left ventricle to the aorta. It is the main artery which sends blood to the upper parts of the body, that is the parts which are located above the heart region, right. Whereas this one, it sends blood with oxygen to different parts of the body. Which parts? Lower parts of the body. So, we get to have blood to this part, and they are carrying oxygenated blood. Now, this is the second circulation what you are seeing, right. Earlier you saw from the right atrium to right ventricle, then it was going to the lungs, and from the lungs you saw it was coming back to the pulmonary vein, okay, then into the left atrium, then to the left ventricle, then to the aorta, different parts. So, that is a second circulation you have seen. This kind of 2 times the blood is circulating. You see, this is the loop what I was discussing about. So, this is the first loop. Okay, I'll do it again properly. So, I told you about the right side, right atrium, right ventricle, that is happening like this, from the lungs were involved. Let us say this is loop 1. Okay. So, in the previous session also we had similar understanding. Okay. This is loop 2. So, this was a second system where from the aorta blood is going to different parts of the body and again reaching into the heart, right. So, this what you are seeing is twice, 2 times the blood is passing through heart, right. One circulation is this, Another circulation is this. Because 2 times the blood is passing through the heart, so this kind of 2 times of circulating of blood is referred as double circulation. So, which is exclusive in those organisms which have 4 chambered hearts. Hope you got it now. So, double circulation is exclusive to those organisms which have 4 chambered heart. Our heart is of 4 chambers, right? That is how we see, right. Now, the very same circuits what you have seen, loop 1 and loop 2, they have respective names. So, loop 1 is actually the pulmonary circuit. The word pulmonary is linked with lungs. Other word is systemic circulation, I will show you. So, the movement of blood from the heart to lungs and back to heart again, that is from lungs to heart again, is what is confined with that circuit, pulmonary circuit. And the second circuit is systemic circulation. So, here what happens? Movement of blood from the body to heart and again from heart to body, that is loop 2, this one. So, this is pulmonary circuit. Okay, and this is systemic circuit. That is what we have seen, right? Pulmonary circuit, systemic circuit. So, pulmonary circulation happens through that pulmonary circuit, systemic circulation happens through systemic circuit, right. So, now how our heart is self-sustaining, like we were discussing in the beginning that heart itself generates that contraction and relaxation, I told you, right. You see here, even if you pull it out from your body, it will be continuously beating on its own, and that is what something special here. So, when you see here, our heart is actually a myogenic heart, which means it is having its own control, because I did mention you that it is having cardiac muscles. Our heart is made up of cardiac muscles. Now, these muscles are exclusive to heart. Nowhere else in the body you will find these muscles, and because of this reason, these cardiac muscles are able to generate their own electrical signals. So, that is why our heart, it happens to generate that electrical signal on its own. It is because of the whole muscles of the heart and the action of the valves of the heart, it accounts for pumping blood to different parts of the body. Now, that is what is each heartbeat is caused by the electrical signal, and that is produced by the heart itself. You need to understand this one, that electrical signal, what it is produced is cardiac conduction system, or ES. There are 3 of them mainly: sinoatrial node, atrioventricular node, and bundle of His and Purkinje fibers. These are the main components within the heart which actually account for the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the heart. So, when you look at this, that is pacemaker, the word pacemaker is usually used for the artificial heart like thing which is inserted inside the heart patients if required. But here sinoatrial node, okay, is actually the natural, and I should say, like, it is a pacemaker kind naturally present in the heart. Now, every beat in the heart begins from this. sinoatrial node. So, it is having a paramount of importance, right. Hope you understood that. So, let us recollect the topics what we have dealt so far. So, we looked at the components of the circulatory system, which we have already done in the lower classes, that is blood, heart and blood vessels. And then we understood the fluid connective tissue, right. So, we call blood as a fluid connective tissue, and the components of the fluid connective tissue were these we have seen, and we also gone through the details of the heart, morphology of the heart, anatomy of the heart we have seen, following which we understood the systemic and pulmonary circulation, right. Systemic and pulmonary circuits of the heart, and that accounted for the double circulation of the heart. So, that accounted for the double circulation in the heart, right. And we have also seen the electrical systems which is generating within the heart using sinoatrial nodes, atrioventricular nodes, Purkinje fibers along with the bundle of His. So, this is what we have learned in this particular session. So, hope we will be doing some more details in the upcoming session. Thank you.